Hey guys, this is Coach Chris. Welcome to my channel where we break down international level fights for strategies and tactics that you can use in your own fights. Today we're breaking down the clinch game. This is part one, we're studying the defense. This week I'm joined by my little brother Kobe. He has a TikTok, so if you want to see him eat random things, his TikTok tag is boy_fashion, and yeah, we'll link that down below. So, as all of you already know, the clinch position is something where if I were to kick at Coach Kobe, we end up here, chest to chest. This is the clinch position. Now, there are some strategies and tactics that you can use to score points, but this video specifically is going to be the different kinds of defenses that you can use inside the clinch. So, first and foremost, the safest position to be in is right here, because there's not enough space for them to kick, and there's no opportunity for them to score for the most part. And now, to stay safe in this position, though, what I do is I usually will underhook my arms this way, and I have my elbows past his shoulder and my arms are up facing this way. So to referees, it looks like I'm just waiting for him to break the round. But what I'm also doing is I'm simultaneously pulling his body this way. So if you were trying to push against me, it's very hard for him to get any leverage to try and push off. So even if I'm bigger than Coach Kobe, if he's doing it the other way around, and he's locking me up, I have a hard time getting any leverage to try and create distance that way. So that's the first thing. That's the overall the safest position. So if I'm in this position, he can bring this leg all the way around and tap my headgear in the back with the foot sensors, which would give him 3 points. We don't want that to happen. So this is what the kick looks like, and I'll show you how to defend. If you were wearing a foot sensor, we don't want that to touch the headgear at all. So what I've been watching in international level fights, what I've been seeing Korea do, is when that happens, all I'm gonna do is put my head in the other direction. So if we flip around, he's using this leg, it's coming up on this side, coming up in the back this way. I'm gonna lean my head forward like this, go ahead. All I do is lean my head forward, so that way the foot sensors can't touch, and I make it so there's enough distance between my head and his foot. So that's really the only thing you have to look out for in that position. So from this clinch position, if your referee is for some reason very strict, they don't like this. Another thing a lot of people like to do is they have their hands out to the side. Now, while this looks kind of silly and it looks like I'm just about to hug my brother Kobe, what this actually does is it prevents Kobe from angling one way or the other. So if he goes trying to go one way or the other way, my hands are here to kind of keep him in place, or at least get my body a natural feel to which direction he might go, and then I can counter move to try and keep him in the corner, for example, or a situation like that. So if, let's say Coach Kobe's defensive or clinch game is a lot better than mine, what I want to try and do as soon as I'm done kicking from range here, and it looks like we're going to enter clinch distance, I need to get to the safe position as soon as possible. Boom. Now we all know that doesn't normally happen, right? Sometimes he'll push against you, or he'll stop you that way, and then there's space, or he might even just fade backwards and then kick after or something like that. So the safest thing after you're done here, when you feel like there's no more range for you to kick, especially if you're in this awkward distance, you want to get to this locked up position as soon as possible to deny your opponent a chance to score. That situation, to get to that point, usually your opponent's not just going to give that to you, especially if their whole game is based around the inside game. And so if I'm pushing Coach Kobe because I want to shoot inside kicks, all Coach Kobe does is just remove my hands physically. So if I'm here, and then while he's doing that, he's getting his upper body close to mine, so that way he can get into the lockup position. So it doesn't matter if it's at the same time. So if it's here, that's one of the ways, or if he does one at a time, as long as he can get to his chest, get into my chest, and enter into that safe position. So Coach Kobe's method is he has one where it's on the inside like this. Another way you can actually physically do it, the way I like to do it, is if you're pushing, I'll just take my hand and shove it up that way, and then get my arm in there. So if his hand's on mine, if you can opt for this one. Another one you can do is just straight up and then shoot your shoulder in, so that way at least you can get your body close to theirs. All right, so those are kind of how to remove the hands so you get to the safe position. But let's say you're getting pushed. What are the tactics you can use if I'm pushing Coach Kobe, or Coach Kobe's stronger than me and he's pushing me back? What kind of tactics can you use then? So one of the things I see people do is if I'm going to push me, Coach Kobe, they'll try and stand just like this and keep pushing me back. And it's a lot hard. It's hard for me to get leverage, even if I were to really try against Coach Kobe. So go ahead, push. Even though I'm 20, 30 kilos stronger than Coach Kobe, if I don't have a good base, if my body's not in a good position, it's gonna be hard for me to push. So we're gonna go into what getting to a good push position looks like. So one of the first things you wanna do is make sure that your base is lower than your opponent's base. So if I'm up here and I'm trying to push Coach Kobe, it's, or joint resist. It's kind of hard for me to move him back, versus if I'm out underneath Coach Kobe, it's a lot easier for me to shove. So the second thing I want you guys to also watch out for is, besides the lowering your base, is you want to position your feet properly. So one of the positions, if I'm trying to push like this is one of the ways to do it. But what I like to do is I turn my foot to the side a little bit so I have a little bit more leverage, a little bit more surface area holding me this way to prevent him from moving it. So it's this versus this. And I find I get a little bit more leverage turning my foot to the side. So once you have a stable back foot, lower base, something you do to say coach push on me. Now from here, it's a lot easier to shoot into this position versus if I'm up and I don't have a baseline push. It's really hard for me to try and get it. So once again, foot sideways, lower base, remove the hands, and then you can shoot into this position. Now let's say someone has this position on you, right? One of the things you can do to counter that is go lower. You can actually just give them your full body weight, and it's kind of draining on them because it taxes their core. They have to carry you. So if I give my full body weight, I mean, he can keep pushing me back, but it's a lot more difficult because now he has to like shove directly up. It's like carrying a full person. It's more tiring, obviously, than if you're the person lying down on top of him. And so that's one of the things you can do if you're the one who's on the top position. But you have to watch out because if I do that to Coach Kobe and he's smart, what he's gonna do is he's gonna adjust his feet under me to make it feel like I'm falling and maybe even open up opportunities for him to score. So if I'm here, I get my weight, it's really easy for him to do that. So that's something you have to watch out for, especially if you're on top. Doing the top down, giving the full body weight move is something China used to do against me, and it was really frustrating, especially because those are really, really big guys. But that's something you can try at home as well. So let's say you can't get in. Let's say Kobe's grip's really good and no matter what you're doing, he can't get in. One of the things I like to do is whatever leg is in back is the leg I will step forward with here to cut off what he can do. So whether it's a good back leg kick or to the head, either one. If I'm here and I step my foot in here, it's becomes the angle this foot has to travel becomes a lot weirder for him to have to do. And so I'll try and do that. I'll try and whichever leg's in back, I'll try and eat that distance while trying to shuck his hands at the same time. So that way, if one does shoot in, like even on this side, I can get in and it moves my torso and his foot has to travel in a weird way. So the likeliness of that scoring kind of reduces by a little bit. Last case scenario is, let's say Kobe blitzes him really fast and I can't really tell what he's gonna do. So something I'll do in a panic situation when I see him kick, if I can't read it, is I'll simply just jump up and try and shoot for the lock-in on my landing. So Kobe blitzes in here, and then I'll try and shoot in right after. And the reason I jump is to remove the target areas from where he expects them to be. So my chest gear comes up, my head gear comes up, and then as I land, that's when I try and shoot. One of the things I want to mention also is if I'm pushing Coach Kobe and he's trying to move my hands, but he can't because I'm grabbing, then you have to learn how to defend yourself from this position, unable to move really. So Coach Kobe's gonna grab me. One of the things I'm looking for, like before, is I'm looking for what leg is in back. So if he switches legs, I'm gonna try and switch to cut off the amount of distance his leg can travel to gather some power. So that might be this way. So the first thing I'm gonna do if I can't move and I can't move his arms at all, if I see this leg coming up, what I'll do is I'll shoot my butt and hit kind of in that direction to cut off the kick, like that. Go ahead. Now the only thing you have to watch out for though is if he swings to the head. One of the ways I'm defending especially is, it looks kind of weird, but what I do in my best shot was, if I'm blocking this way already, then the only other way it can hit me is coming through the back. So I'll use my other hand to block the back of my head. Boom. And it looks weird, but it covers all the targets on this side. It's been effective for me in a couple of matches. So the other thing you can do is, if they are grabbing you can't remove, and let's say you're not comfortable or not sure about blocking the way I'm doing, one of the things you can do is you can switch to this side and keep firing this leg just so that way it's occupying the space and so he can't kick. Otherwise it's gonna either clash or come up with your leg, right? So that's one of the things you can do. Zhao does that against Lee Dae-hoon. I think Deakita does that against Jang Jun, and it seems to be really effective for them. And so from this position, there are certain things also blocking wise that I'm looking for specifically. So if Kobe's holding me at bay and I see the knee come up straight, I kind of assume that that's going to be to the body, so I drop this arm. Boom. That's one of them. Another thing I look for is if it comes to the side, that's indicative of an out-in crescent kick. So I know to block accordingly. Now I know obviously that people know that already, so at the higher levels, people fake by shooting their leg up straight and doing a crescent kick like this. Or they'll swing it out wide first and then they'll swing it out wide to fake doing crescent get their hand up, and then they'll slam it into the body like that. So they'll loop it around to try and make it look different. But those are the main two. Now there are some kind of oddball, meaning not as common kind of weapons that your opponents may use against you, and this is kind of how to defend against those. So the first one of those usually is when you're here, you're expecting the back leg because that's where the power is going to generate, but there's some people who are able to do a jumping off ball to the chest. Cool. And so to do that, obviously you just drop your front arm. You need to watch though, I usually do that and I'll lean back a little bit just in case it is coming to the face and I can duck my head out of the way. So if we're here, Kobe jumps, but it looks something a little bit like that. So that one's a little bit more rare. The one that I see kind of Iran doing a lot, the Hosseini against Dehun, is he'll jump up through the middle. So we can do that against me. He'll come up through the middle, or the other one also is if they have an in-out crescent kick from inside the clinch. Well, those can be really, really hard to cover. And so, although the defense I found was effective for me was if someone's doing either one of those, whichever leg is coming up. So let's say this leg's the one coming up. I'm going to use this hand, and I'm just simply going to put my hand on the other shoulder. So whether it's a jump kick, it kind of stops the knee, or if it's the out in, so it crosses and stops it that way. And the only reason I know that is because I have a teammate, William Connick, who I think it was like 3 or 4 trainings straight that he figured out this is a pretty good weapon, and then he used it against me for like 3 or 4 days before I figured out if you use the arm on the opposite side, it stops the travel of the leg. So that's something you can practice as well. Other weapons you might see is if you're in this position, you might see a twist kick come out. That's the case. What I generally do is just drop my front arm. Or if you're not sure what side is coming out, you can just turn your body completely and then you went like Zhao does. And then you can only have one side to defend versus trying to think about both sides of your Hoku. So those are the main things to look out for in a clinch. The last thing I want to mention is when you're in the clinch, generally I'm going to advise you guys that it's safer to just stay here, lock it up, and wait for the ref to break you. Because a lot of times people come out of the clinch, there's no Kalyo or anything, the match is still going, they'll fade out slowly like this, and then there's a face kick or their opponent gets a point because you're stepping backwards. The only time I really advise that is if you're able to here and shoot yourself back really far at a safe distance and cover this dangerous area really fast. Besides that though, I would recommend staying in the clinch and waiting for the ref to break. Alright guys, so last thing is if you're in the clinch and you feel like you're losing the clinch game a lot, one of the things is to just get stronger. That might be, depending on your age, you might need to start lifting. Overall strengthening is just going to help your overall Taekwondo game. So I'll start looking in that direction, then start looking at more technical stuff like the way I was showing you here. Now with that being said, I gave you guys a lot of concepts today, right? And so what I want you guys to do is pick 1 or 2 of the concepts and maybe drill those at home. So if it's covering, have your partner push against you and then kick, and then just try and cover and get your eyes used to seeing, is the knee coming out straight? Is it coming out wide? Is it coming out across? Is it gonna try in-out crescent? And just try to defend yourself and work on just that. Or another concept you can work on is trying to shoot in and trying to get locked up after you're done kicking. If you try and do too many of these at the same time, you're not gonna get the concept of it, you're not gonna have mastery of it, and then you won't be able to use it in the ring, which is what I want. And I don't want you guys to go into the ring thinking, okay, I have this knowledge, and then you're sparring, and then you're thinking, okay, well, his knee's coming out wide, and so that's gonna be a crescent kick. By the time you finish thinking about all that, you're gonna get hit in the head, or you're gonna get hit in the body. So I need you guys to drill all of this stuff until it's second nature, and that's when you can finally start using it in the match. All right, I wanna give a big shout out to my editor. He's doing a lot of fantastic work, and really thank you so much for him. His link is down below if you wanna see more of his work. And last but not least, I have a Patreon account. If you guys feel free to subscribe to me there. I'm gonna start hosting some live Q&As when we get enough people, and I might start putting some behind the scenes stuff, depending on what you guys wanna see. Besides that though, thank you all for tuning in week after week. Hopefully we get out of this corona pandemic soon. Stay safe guys, and I'll see you guys next week.